Broc Glover here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, or the city of brotherly love, and we are at Lincoln Financial Field where we're getting ready for round 15 of the Monster Energy AMA Supercross Championship and round 8 of the 250 SX. And I have co-host Lorenzo Lucusio from Wildcat Race Team, and we're going to take a lap around this track and learn some stuff, and we're also going to learn some stories about you, because you did not have a traditional way to the AMA Supercross coming from Venezuela.
Yeah, correct. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward for everyone to know a little bit more about me.
Well, perfect. Well, we can start off and get walking here. Philadelphia, let's talk a little bit about the history here. There's been some press release, kind of kiddingly and fun, a few things poked here and there, but Supercross has not been to Philadelphia since 1980. So that is the longest streak of any city to not return. There's been some 22 years, I think, in East Rutherford, New Jersey. I think it was 22 years in Denver, but it's been 43 seasons since the last time we raced in Philadelphia. So,
and there's another record that hasn't been broken in. How's it feel to carry this record you have of being the last winner here 44 years ago?
That is funny. Yep, I was the last winner here in Philadelphia. So the reigning champion, it's getting a little heavy carrying that title.
It's been a long
time. So
it's
finally going to be finally being eclipsed tomorrow. And the kind of the interesting part, you think about Pennsylvania and all the history it's had in motocross and supercross. I mean, think about how many of the races at High Point Raceway in Mount Morris, Pennsylvania, you know, that's been the SMX Sports, the Coombs family's backyard. They've held over 40-some nationals there. Then they had Steel City for 20-something nationals. There's been another one in Pocono Raceway. There's been some other, but the fact that the Supercross, official Supercross races, there's only been 4, and they had a national here that was a 500cc motocross national here at the stadium, where the stadium was the same stadium that we actually raced in 1980. But that was considered a national in 1973, and that was before Supercross became an official city, because Supercross became a series in 1974. So
wow.
Another interesting fact, so all 5 major races that they've had either in a stadium, so the 1973 race, the 2 in 1980 that was won by Mike Bell, eventual champion that year in 1980 on a Yamaha. Then I won on a Yamaha. The 1973 race was won by Pierre Karsmarkers on a Yamaha. And then we've had 2 Supercrosses in Pittsburgh, and 1978, I believe, Bob Hanna won on a Yamaha, and then 1983, I won on a Yamaha. So the Yamaha is the only brand that's ever won a stadium race in the state of Pennsylvania. So I bet Cooper Webb and Eli Tomac are crossing their fingers.
I was about to say, do you think they want to keep that streak alive, or what?
I think they do. So the one thing you'll notice right here, the dirt here looks pretty good. It has a few stones in it, a lot of press. They generated a lot of press here, the most I've ever seen at a Supercross. A lot of live TV shows. I mean, even like I saw Fox Business Network did a live here. There's people that are not their traditional, just local news stations. This was some national news that came out, and they learned to ride. The weather was perfect. The stadium's open here, and so far everything's been good. Cross our fingers. But it's been a very successful return right now, and I heard preseason ticket sales were quite good. Yeah,
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, like you said, the dirt looks amazing. There's a little bit stones here and there. The Dirtworks crew have done an amazing job keeping this place moist. As you can see, they dug a little bit of the dirt. It kind of looks like they tilted it almost a little bit. So I think it'll be interesting just to keep the track a little bit more softer. We had some harder packed rounds here and there. So yeah, it's awesome. It's the first dry round we have in a long time. So I think us riders are looking forward to it.
Yeah, talking to the Dirtworks crew, they said this dirt here absorbs and takes a lot of water. They've been adding truckloads after truckloads, and they've moved it in. They will have a monster truck event after the Supercross, so it hasn't had that luxury of being in here for a while, but it really didn't need to, because the weather's been good. I mean, it's not, it's a little cool right now. The breeze is coming around, and I got a jacket on because it is getting sun starting to set, but they're talking 83-degree weather by Sunday here. So the weather's been fantastic. Starts not as long as we've seen. We've seen some 300-foot starts recently, but this one's about 250 feet, and then does an immediate, very, very sharp corner,
yeah.
to the point where I was a little surprised how sharp this corner is. What about yourself?
Yeah, to be honest, it's gonna funnel a little bit. But I think also the outside has a really great opportunity. Like if you really throw it in, you can get through the corner fast. I think it's really good, but yeah, whoever has that inside, it's gonna be money because they're gonna be able to hit the rhythm section the way they want to, and I think they're just gonna get more ahead of than everyone else.
Quite a large group of riders riding press day today. In the past week, they actually canceled Nashville prematurely. It turned out, but they did cancel it because they were worried about weather. They didn't really need to, but they did. This one, full press day, all the riders out there, all the championship contenders.
Correct.
To get some laps out there, what did you think? And this part of the track, this half of the track right here, the first sections of it, the track was utilized the whole entire section.
Correct. Yeah. This afternoon I did some press day action, and honestly, the track was really, really good. Like you said, they put a lot of water into it, and it was really moist. It broke down quite a bit, honestly. To be honest, there was a lot of ruts in there, and yeah, it was awesome. I like the layout a lot, to be honest. It has some options here and there. So yeah, I think it's a really good layout. I think the track is really good. It's gonna rut up and it's gonna break down a lot. So by main event time, it's gonna be quite technical.
Yeah. So coming out of the first corner, the line that I saw that seemed to be the best, but we could ask somebody like Adam, since they're all over there, maybe he'd tell us, but I saw rolling the first corner, it's so tight, rolling and landing up on the table, the small knob, and jumping over, downsiding this, and then tripling into the corner. Is that what did you get a chance to do that line?
Yes, sir, correct. Yeah, so we were going single, like you said, going over the tabletop and then triple into the corner. I think that's gonna be the faster line. Well, now we see they added a knuckle to the right side of the tabletop, so I think it's going to be another option now to maybe three onto the table.
And Derek, if you'll go back to that very first jump, another change that it looks like they implemented since the press day, they took a little bit off the outside to encourage riders to go there, maybe jump up onto the table and hit the knuckle. So if you have to change and mix it up a little bit, at least there's a couple of different options here. So coming right out of the first corner though, you don't want it to be overly busy. It just becomes a dangerous situation, I think, for the riders.
Yeah, correct. I think also for the first lap, we're going to be doing, the first guy is going to be able to triple, maybe the second, third guy. But right after that, it's going to be pretty safe because all we got to do is just go double, single into the turn. So I think they also look for that also for our safeties. And I think it's just going to be really interesting going into this corner now because it's really tight into, there's not much space between jump and berm.
Yep, going into the right-hand 180 here. Call it the Rocky Mountain ATV MC for obvious reasons. They're a longtime series sponsor and sponsor of the Fantasy Supercross. But the one thing you'll notice right now, we're doing this walk. You're hearing a little talks in the background. You saw a couple other riders. Maybe we tried to wait till most of the track walk was over before we started ours. And why would they be doing track walk on Friday evening? Because tomorrow is a early schedule.
Correct. Yes, tomorrow's going to be an NBC at 3 p.m. So yeah, looking forward to that. It's going to be an early one for everyone involved. And also another thing, the 450s are going first tomorrow.
There you go. I was going to say, what else happens when the networks take over? They want the 450 riders right out of the gate. So the very first, maybe the early viewer, the viewer that's not really the seasoned Supercross watcher, they turn it in. They see the star names that they might know. Eli Tomacs, the Jet Lawrences, and Cooper Webbs, and they see those names and they go, okay, I'm hooked. I'm going to watch it all the way through. So again, they book in the 450, start the program, and they end it. So the finals at the end. So
correct.
So this track, Lorenzo, is about 1,880 feet. For the guys that pay attention to the tracks every week, when you start getting into that 1,800 foot range, that starts flirting with the 40-second lap times, maybe mid to 40 seconds. That's a lot of laps for the final with a 20-minute plus one lap. You're starting to get into the 26, 27 laps. So important for the crew to stay up on the track. Hopefully, I know they have a tight schedule with network TV, but it's a good thing that they can get the track maintained.
Yep, I think they're going to be able to, because to be honest, the weather is favoring, and I think it's just going to be a good racetrack.
Yep. So right out of that Rocky Mountain 180, standard triple, nothing special here by any means. Again, they've been adding a lot of water to the track, making sure they can stay ahead of it with a little bit of breeze working around and the clear skies over. It's gonna be something they're gonna be doing most of the day, I think, tomorrow. But where there's not water, the track is really good.
Yes.
And this will absorb through the night, no problem. So first riders, I believe, are on the track tomorrow. What is it, 8 a.m.?
Yep.
Yeah.
8 a.m.
It's early.
It'll be an early one tomorrow.
No earlier than, trust me, no earlier than I was here this morning. I think I did a TV shot this morning, and it had a 5 in front of the hour. So
wow.
Yeah, I got in from the West Coast and then jumped out here, got up at 4 and came down to the stadium, and I saw some live broadcasts literally at 4:30 in the morning talking about Supercross. So it's been really cool. So coming off the triple, pretty standard again. It's kind of the mirror image of the right-hand 180 over there, the Dunlop bowl corner right here, another 180. And into a rhythm section here that had quite a few combinations. This was actually an interesting section, and it was kind of fun to watch. And again, they've tweaked it there. If you can do, Derek, look a little bit up here. They added this knuckle on top of the tabletop to try to get the riders to switch it up a little bit, because the quickest line that I saw, and I don't know, Lorenzo, were you able to do this? Out of this corner off this single, they were downsiding the table, and then at that point, jumping the next, because you have 2 tabletops back to back. They were jumping the next table and clearing the single, so it was kind of triple right out of the corner.
Yep, us for the 250 class, we did single over table, table over single, 3, 3, 2. I did see though, however, Jet Lawrence went single over table, table over 2, 3. So that's going to be interesting tomorrow to catch an eye on that on the 450 class. And then, they added this lip on the inside, so I think they want us to go on-off 3.
Yep.
So I think that's going to be a good option also to have, and just something different to do.
Yeah, so you can see right now, even after doing press day, you see Adam over there to the right. He's kind of checking it out. Okay, what did they change from yesterday? So they're looking at it right now. So you see, I see Adam's riding coach Nick Way down there. So everybody's kind of gotten a little extra little shot on this. Figured it out. So you're going to see a whole bunch of combinations here for certain. There's what do you think?
I'm about to shoot a Cowie commercial.
All right, man. Sell some Kawasaki's.
It's wet, though.
I know, it is sloppy.
What do you think of the tracker from press day?
I think it's crazy ruddy all the time. I mean, I know that what they're doing this weekend, because it's a day race. Do you remember Denver a couple years ago was really dusty? Salt Lake, it's been dusty before. So I think they're just, you see they've got that little scraper out and they're kind of making it loose. I thought the berms were a little bit too loose.
I agree.
I think sometimes when it gets too ruddy, it gets very single file racing. But yeah, I know what they're doing has a purpose always, so you don't want to just throw out your observations, because they're doing it for a reason. But personally, I prefer a little bit more like last weekend, at least when it comes to the bowl turns, because you kind of open up some options. People can square up, and you're racing each other, not so much as racing the track. This year the tracks have been so ruddy. I feel like it funnels for the most part, and everybody's just trying to stay up the whole time. Where I want some racing, back and forth action.
Couldn't agree more. When the tracks get too difficult, you start racing the track instead of each other. We want to see racing against each other. So good luck tomorrow, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks for your time. So again, there's somebody who's ridden many years understands, and I agree kind of the fact that if you get the track, if it becomes too difficult, too rutted, then you get locked in and you're not able to race each other. But the crew, I don't want to prejudge anything. I've seen sloppy messes of standing water in bowl corners. By the end of the night, they're almost adding water. So they do a good job of working the track, watching the development of the track. So
I agree with you, and I think also they're trying to just keep progressing the sport. So I think they just keep trying. Sometimes what they do might not work, or sometimes it might work. So it doesn't hurt to try. We got to be open to changes. So and like you said, they haven't had an easy one this year. So we got to be appreciative of everything they've done to just give us raceable tracks. So you know, not every time they're going to be right. So we just got to give them some slack when they don't, and then just work together. That's all we can do. Work together, keep growing the sport. And then at the end, it's just going to benefit us riders.
Yeah, you know, you're talking about the tracks changing every week. I got to listen to Eli do his interview for the Fox Business Channel, easy for me to say, but the Fox Business Channel, and he talked about how the uniqueness of the sport, even though we race on dirt and it's a Supercross race, every single track is a little bit different than the other, and that's a unique thing in our sport, and it's really, really good. So I'm kind of stalling for a moment here. Jake Veneto, our series chaplain's over there giving taking his time talking to the few of the riders. But one thing I wanted to talk about. So let's talk about the fun story about Wildcat Race Team. How did you come up with Wildcat Race Team? Coming from Venezuela, what did it have something to do with Venezuela? Where did it come from?
No, actually it had to do with my own old team boss over at Kissimmee Motorsports in Florida, where I'm from. He helped me out in the 2019 season. And yeah, we were just getting to know each other. We were getting to start piecing everything together. We started the graphics kit. I sent him a proof, and then his response was Wildcat. So as me not being here, being English not being my first native language, I started researching and just trying to asking people what it meant. You know, maybe it's something that I didn't know.
So he only responded with the word Wildcat. That was it?
Correct.
Nothing else?
Nothing else. So okay. I did a little bit of research, couldn't find an answer other than the animal. So I asked one of his employees, the general manager of the store, I asked him, hey, like, he said this, what does it mean? And then his response was, LOL, he hated it. So okay. I started kind of joking around it with the graphics guy, like he's my friend, he's also a mechanic for me a bunch. So then, you know, I was in the sandbox. I'm still out in the sandbox riding, training with Kenny. Adam was there.
Ken Rocks and Adam, since they all trained at the sandbox.
Correct.
Right?
Chase Sexton and you know, Alex Martin. So then they kind of heard it and they asked me what was that. So I told the story. They started calling me Wildcat, Wildcat, Wildcat. So it became my nickname.
New nickname was Wildcat.
Correct.
There you go. So it's easier to pronounce. Okay, so that's a pretty funny story. So now then you decided to start your own team, and you called it Wildcat Race Team.
Correct. Very cool. We were.
And then last year was the Nationals were your first race, right?
Correct. We were in a table with my father, my mother. They support me a lot. So we were kind of brainstorming what could we call the team. Yeah. And then, you know, we said last name, this and that. But we're like, we don't want it to be a name that just involves, like, I want it to be something unique also. So we came up with why don't we just call it Wildcat?
I love it. I love it. So do you ever talk to your old guy at Kissimmee Kawasaki, the motorsports there, and ask him, hey, look at the name of my team?
Yeah, Alex Moro's over
Legends and Heroes.
Yeah. He's also, you know, been involved a lot in my program. And it's funny because I saw them both at Daytona. And the first thing he said, he was with his son Robert, and the first thing Bobby said to his son Robert is like, hey, you see that name right there? I gave him that name. So
there you go.
It was great to catch up with him also and just brainstorm and talk about the old times.
Love it, love it. So tell us what you were doing be able to do on your bike. And again, I did see some of the 450s. So we came over, we saw the tall, what we call 4 or 5 footer, then a couple of 3 footers, and then this is a 2 and a 3 split option to try to give more lift. But the 5 footer here you want to miss.
Correct.
So I saw riders doing, what they were doing was jumping either this jump or this one and clearing the 5 and tripling out into that and then doubling into the corner. Were you able to do that line? Or?
Yep, correct. So we were going over the tabletop, table over single, but then we were using the big one to go 3. And then this 3 over here, we were going 3, missing the 5, landing over there at the other 3, and then doubling into the corner before the big Supercross triple.
So you were using one of the 5 footers and you were missing one of the 5 footers. So that was a
correct
kind of option. Depending, and again, the 250s, the 500, or the 250s, excuse me, and the 450s, then you have that option of missing the 5 footers, but not always on the 250. Sometimes you need that 5 footer to get up and over, right?
Correct.
So,
yes.
There you go. Perfect. Okay.
So then we got the Supercross triple. Actually, it's a pretty big one.
So it is. It's a big one there. We That looked a little bit, I know, it looked a little bit farther than the 62-footer, to be honest with you. But they've given you a little extra run coming out of this corner.
I think they also just changed the corner a little bit, excuse me. They fixed a little bit the berm so that we get a little bit more of a run up to it.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think it's going to be a good one to look at. I think the 450s are going to be able just to jump to the inside and just drift to the outside, triple from the inside, so they won't be needing much of the berm. Yep. Where I think us, the 250s, will be banking and relying on that berm a lot.
Okay, so right there in front, again, Jake is still talking there, and so we're probably not going to try to go fight his microphone. Coming in front of the triple, it goes into the Falcon corner, if you can zoom in there if you can, or whatever, in the distance, 180, and then right out of that corner, there's a series of really 4 3-footers, and they're almost borderline 2.5-footers. They're not very big, but all the top riders in press day were able to get out of that corner and triple. And then from there, they're going into a single into a sand section. And you have about a 100+ foot long sand section that they've added large rollers on the inside, and they've made a nice, fairly smooth berm on the outside. And that being said, the guys were coming over the triple and then singling and trying to clear this inner bump they've added, or they would just rail the outside. But this got pretty
chewed up.
Yeah, it got really chewed up. And the more it got chewed up, a little bit odd, in the press day, they were jumping back out onto the start, but when the race is going on, you guys are going to need to go all the way on the outside and then cross directly in front of the starting gate. So if you're here and somebody's dumping a big handful of a 450 and you're on the outside, you're going to get roosted, or even if you're following them, you're going to get roosted right here, because this is some soft, you can see here, this is some soft sand. So,
yeah, it's pretty good. This section they built, I think it's pretty even. Like you said, we can triple, double into the inside, or we can double, or triple, single to the outside. They did change it a little bit from press. I think they slowed it down a little more. For press day, we were going over here straight to there, so it was a little different.
Yep.
Now doing a fully turn into this wall jump coming up, I think it's going to be important just to keep our momentum up, because that'll be a decider of a good or bad lap.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Looking back, you turned pro in 2017, I think, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I know you had multiple top 10s. I looked back even more at the result sheets, and I was pleasantly surprised how many top 10s you had on 450s in MX. You seem to like the big 450, and you seem to like soft conditions in sand. I actually have raced a Grand Prix in Venezuela, and it was very, very sandy. So did you grow up riding in the sand, or did you perfect that skill more when you started training in Florida more?
Yeah, so coming up from Venezuela, we have hard pack tracks. So we don't get the luxury riding like tracks like South Lake or like even Redbud, that has that loamy, softer dirt.
Yeah.
Us is more like a hard pack base. So I got to perfect that here actually, but funny part, in my amateur career, I didn't get to ride it much because I was living in a Millsap Strain facility where it's hardback. So I think I just had that easiness of riding the sand. I like it a lot, so I think it comes easy to me. I think everything is about the energy you put into it, so I think that helps it. And yeah, on motocross, I've had a lot of good races, especially in the 450 class. So yeah, I think it's something that comes easy to me.
Yep. Well, we talked about them trying to slow the track down. So right across the start, flat out into a you gotta go. That's a much steeper wall. This thing at the top, this is like a half pipe. If you're a snowboarder, I think this part right here,
this part right here
is about vertical. So they definitely tried to slow the guys down here. So they'd like to see that 50-second track time, lap time, rather than a 45 or a 46. So that slowed them a bit. There's nothing really beyond this. The last couple of tracks we've seen, well, at Indy, and we saw it at Nashville, where they had the wall, and the guys were just catching air, jumping into the whoops.
Correct.
There's nothing here to really gain by airborne. I mean, if you catch a ton of air in here, you're just coming into a 90
You're
degree
gonna mess
here,
up your
so,
next
yeah,
section coming up.
So into this 90, this section here, I noticed a lot of the riders today spending a little more time on their track walk over here because they already did lots of laps over there. They already got that one kind of figured out, other
Correct.
than the small changes. But this here, what do you think's the number?
Honestly, I think the number one line, and if I could choose, I would go outside after the wall, 3 into the whoops, just to be able to carry that momentum towards there. I think the realistic race line will be going inside, roll, double into the whoops.
Okay.
Or when the whoops start getting chewed up into the night show or afternoon show, will be to go double and then jumping into the whoops to get that rhythm, as we saw in Nashville.
Yes.
Or as we saw in the weekend prior to that too, where we jumped into it. So
yeah, these whoops look big, and when right now in the condition they're in, they look pretty tough. You know, they look firm. They've got a little bit of stone in them. If they hold together, and that's an if, you're going to see some pretty treacherous whoops, I think.
Yep.
But we'll see. Hopefully they will hold together because they're a tough set.
Yeah, the last 3 weekends, I feel like the Dirtworks crew have been building them a little bit bigger and steeper.
Yep.
Hopefully with this dirt being a little bit of firmer based, hopefully they stay up a little longer and they don't get so much chewed up.
Yep.
But I think they're just trying to create that division between the top riders and the mid-level pack riders. So
yes.
this over here, I see the top guys having no issues with it, and then just like I said, carrying that momentum, and also, the jump guys will be able to do it no problem also because they have a nice slip in the bottom.
Yes.
And they're not so like close together.
The transition isn't so tight. Yeah.
Correct.
With the new kind of 9 whoop plan, it seems like most of the course, they have a pre-whoop and then they have the 9. It's clear that if you can just do 3-3-3, you only have to touch a couple times inside the whoops. That's being an option that you're seeing a lot more of than we didn't see so much after that. But coming out of the whoops, if you're seeing 3-3-3, a very, very wide corner before the finish line jump. And if you've noticed, it's not a very steep berm, which that's a little something different too.
Yes.
They've laid it down so it's not such a big an advantage to go hit that outside corner until a nice rut. 1 or 2 bikes have taken that, and I don't know if they were just checking. They usually do that when they're checking the transponder just to make sure the timing and scoring is working. So somebody's made a couple of wide lines in there, and if they get a big berm in there, yeah, you can pick up some speed. But it also looks like there could be 2 or 3 lines in the middle there before you go up the finish line jump here. So we're going to let Derek, our cameraman, go up first. If he falls, we'll walk around. Almost. Good job. Good save.
We'll follow his.
We're following your footsteps.
Yeah, we made it no problem.
We made it no problem there. So again, just a standard finish line jump here. Trying to light the candles or get into the main events. So tell us about your team a little bit. You have a young rookie rider that you're trying to help and mentor and hopefully get into the night program. So who do you have on your team?
Yeah, so this year for Supercross we have Nick Laurie. I've known him for a long time. His mom is actually from Venezuela also.
Oh,
so,
nice.
He's an up-and-coming kid. We gave him the chance just to kind of give him the platform to excel here. It's his first year, so he's learned a ton.
Yeah.
We try to help him as much as we can. So I think this weekend he's way better prepared than he's been all year.
Good.
And I think, he can make the night show this weekend and just carry his momentum into the final round in Salt Lake.
Well, very good. So coming off the finish line into the corner, and you're just a very small kind of a braking bump into the very sharp corner.
Interesting, they built it a little bit of a mellow. It's not so steep. And so
this is a really mellow corner. You can see if you look at this berm here, this is what Adam was talking about earlier, where he mentioned how soft the berms are, maybe a little bit too soft. It might be better if they track them in a little bit, firm them up if they can. give some more options, because just with a couple of bikes checking transponders to make sure they work, you can see how deep those ruts are. So I'm sure they'll be working on it when they get a chance and get it there.
I wonder, Broc, and I don't know if it'll be like this. I wonder if they did it this way today to get the moisture down on the ground, and then tomorrow morning maybe they'll track him in and just make them all nice for us to go practice on.
Yep, probably are. So, you know, it's interesting for me to do these track walks sometimes with riders. This year it's kind of been obviously a rider / team owner and, you know, team staff. It's amazing how knowledgeable the riders and the team staff have become on the track and the dirt and the conditions. Like, you understand that they're trying to get that moisture down a little deeper, and then they can always firm it up on the top if they want later on, but they got to get that moisture down in there a bit. So it's interesting, you know, very observant on your part. So. And the other thing, that last year when you started your team too, you had Jose Butron over, a Spanish rider who had multiple top 10s in the MXGPs in his career, and then you brought him over. Did he always want to race the AMA series, or what was his goal there?
Yeah, so I met Jose with my old team. I'd raced the MXGP calendar 2 years, and he was my teammate at the time in that team over there. And we always talked about, you know, we're the only Spanish-speaking guys over there in that team, so we kind of bonded really well. Yeah. We were going everywhere together, even though he lived in Spain, I lived in Czech Republic. But we kept always in contact, and then we always talked about his dream was to come here and race in America, at least for one season. So, yeah, when this whole deal materialized, I gave him a call and see if he was interested. Of course, he jumped on a plane, and he was here before I knew it. Yeah. And I became awesome, you know, because for a up-and-coming team, this is going to be, when outdoor starts, is going to be our first full year. This last year was our first outdoor season, and this is our first Supercross season. So for us, you know, we don't have the biggest budget. We don't have the biggest people behind us. So for us to do what we did last year, we got a lot of top 10s. I was 7th before I got hurt in Southwick, and he was, I think, finished 9th or 10th in the championship. So I think for us, it was a great season. Just to kind of learn. Also for me as a team owner, I have my family helping me, you know, with the managing. My mom's a team manager, my dad's the crew chief. So yeah, we're a really family oriented team, and we like to keep it that way, you know. We're doing it for the love of the sport, and then also just to give me a great platform for me to race and excel and do great results in a solid program.
Well, let's talk about, you mentioned one thing. We were the Spanish speakers on a team. Now let's talk about that, the Spanish broadcast in Supercross this year for the first year. What has that done in your home country and to the people that you speak to that are Spanish speakers as their native tongue? I've been hearing nothing but rave reviews at what that has done. So where do you see it?
Honestly, I think it's been the biggest blessing we've had, us being Spanish-speaking people. It's helped with sponsors. You know, always when I grew up, I always saw the races, you know. I saw, you know, Ricky, I saw James, saw Chad Reed, I saw all those top guys, but I never understood what they were saying, like the commentators. So now to be able to see the races, understand, feel a little more identified for what they say with the sport, and just kind of to follow more of the riders, I think it's really, really good. TJ, Tommy Rios, I raced against them for many years.
Speaking broadcasters or Tommy,
Correct. And then Edgar, I think they're doing a fantastic job for being the first year. I think they hit it out of the park, and it's helping not only for us to understand more of the sport that we love, it's also helping for me as a team owner. It's helping for bringing sponsors, outside sponsors from the country. So not only it's benefiting us, the fans, but it's also benefiting me as a team owner. And then like you said, you know, I get pictures sent every weekend from riders and families just looking at the broadcast in Spanish, following my racing.
Well, hopefully that will help the Wildcat race team pick up a few sponsors. And Lorenzo, thank you so much for your time. And next week we will be in Denver at the penultimate round of the 450s, but this is actually the penultimate round of the 250 East SX, and with that last round being another showdown, as we saw in Nashville, anything can happen, because right now Tom Vial has a points lead over Hayden Deegan. I believe what did we figure? It was 13 points,
so
and
anything
both
can
have
still
two
happen.
wins. So anything can happen, obviously, tomorrow night. But when we get to Salt Lake City, when the showdown comes back to town, anything can happen. So no championships are set by any means, and Jet does have a 5-point lead now over Cooper. But again, who knows what can happen? This is Supercross and this is racing. So please tune in next week, and thank you for tuning in this week, and we'll see you in Denver.